All right, what is up? We are here with another episode of Be the Exception podcast. We have Jonathan Chen with us. Jonathan, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the pod.
Yeah, for sure. It's a lifelong dream, right?
I know. It's what I've wanted for a long time.
Is Mia jealous?
I think Mia's very jealous.
She knows, I'm assuming.
I don't know if she knows.
Oh, okay. Well,
Well, I have a call
surprise
with her later,
Mia.
so
Don't tell her.
Oh, don't. Okay, I won't tell her. We'll just
Don't
debut
tell
the
her,
episode.
yeah. Yeah, so John's been a client of mine for 3 years now, right?
Yeah, we're going on 4.
Going on
Going on
4
year 4.
years. Yep. And so we're just going to get into kind of discussing those 3 years, some of your previous training history, and how we've kind of like evolved your training over the last 4 years as you've kind of progressed through jobs and
Yep.
life in general and
Yep.
master's categories now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, John, tell us a little bit about yourself. Maybe just like how you kind of found CrossFit and started in CrossFit.
For sure. I found CrossFit in about 2019. Well, okay, I take it back. I tried an on-ramp when I was in college,
Okay.
and I was at home for the summer.
What gym
and-
was it?
Oh gosh, it was in Danville, California.
Oh, okay. I thought it was in Minnesota.
No, it wasn't Minnesota.
So, fun fact, John and I went to school
Down the road from one another?
literally like 3 blocks from each other.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, less than a mile.
Yeah.
Never knew each other.
Yep.
Less than a mile, 2 small schools.
Yep.
But yeah, I was in California.
Okay,
So
okay.
I took it. I had never thrown up in a workout before, but I did there. And honestly, the only reason I did it was because at the time, and this was, mind you, everybody, like 2008.
Wait, you did this in 2008?
Yeah.
Wow.
I
You were
was-
OG then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And this is when a lot of, because I was a volleyball player, so
Okay.
a lot of beach volleyball players have started doing it.
Okay.
And so I was like, well, if I want to be good at beach, I should probably do what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's kind of been defining of my entire fitness history anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tried it, struggled,
Mm-hmm.
and then just kind of never touched it again because I was part of that group that thought you had to be fit to do CrossFit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think back then in 2008, 2009, that was definitely the trend.
Yeah.
And there may have been a degree of truth to that. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think there is, like, even still, like, if I'm going to train, if somebody's like, I want to start taking CrossFit classes, like, you
Yeah.
train them into CrossFit classes. Like,
Correct.
you're going to do air squats first, you're going to do push-ups first, you're going to do all these calisthenics first before you go into CrossFit.
Yeah.
Maybe we get you on a machine breathing heavy and stuff like that. So I think there is truth to that.
Yeah. For sure. So then I didn't do it. And then when I moved here to Atlanta, I moved here for dance. Started working at Orange Theory, and I mean I left recently, but it was a 9-year career with Orange Theory. So I
Mhm.
started CrossFit honestly for a couple reasons. I needed a fitness outlet that was exclusively for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I was used to taking Orange Theory classes. Obviously, I got to do it for free.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, to a certain degree, at that period of my life for dance, as a ballroom dancer, it worked perfectly for me.
Mhm.
It did what it had to do. It obviously kept me in shape through the prime of my career
Mm-hmm.
dancing. But I kind of got to the point where I was in it so much, and taking class where you worked just was no longer fun for me.
Yeah.
So I started doing it just for myself. Really, really enjoyed it. And then I retired from ballroom dancing in 2021. And at that point, I needed something competitive to fill the competitive void. And
Mhm.
that's actually when I found you. I'm pretty sure the day I retired was the day we started.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's when I found Blacklisted and started
Mhm.
working with you and started
Mhm.
actually taking training seriously.
Mm-hmm.
I just needed to have with dance no longer in my life, I needed a process to follow.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
needed something to fulfill we train for something, we
Yeah.
execute something,
Yeah.
and then we go back and do it again. Because I was so used to that for 9-10 years.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So basically, you started out in 2008,
Yeah.
and then you started at 404,
Yeah.
now Buckhead, right?
Started at 404 in 2019.
Yeah.
My on-ramp coach was Nicole Corey.
Sweet.
So I did just class through 2020.
Okay, so you moved down here in 2019 or
I
no?
moved down here in 2015.
2015. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. So yeah, maybe kind of backing up, we can get into the blacklisted stuff a little bit. Let's go into a little bit more of like your kind of background
Yeah,
in sport and
for
stuff
sure.
like that too.
Yeah. So the only sport I played was volleyball. Like seriously, I played volleyball in high school and college.
Yeah.
That was definitely, we found out, the sport for me. I was not raised to be an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised to do everything else. I was very lucky in how my parents raised me. It was pretty stereotypically East Asian. However, I was allowed to make choices. So it wasn't like, this is what you're doing. It was, you can do whatever you want to do, but you better be very good at it.
Okay.
And so I had tried sports. Like, I was not a bad swimmer. I was just the smallest one there and couldn't go very fast, just mass-wise. So after a season, my parents like, we're done. I tried like t-ball, baseball, wasn't great at it, pulled me out after a season. So it's not like I didn't do things, but I was definitely not raised in the athletic realm.
Right.
I was a competitive classical pianist. I did that for 14 years. I was a debater for some of the top programs in the country in high school and college. That's what I was recruited for. So I did that. So I found volleyball in high school and college. I had to negotiate playing in high school because of piano. And then decided to pick up dancing in college at age 20.
Wow. Okay.
First time I'd ever danced in a formal setting ever was 20. Turned pro in 2020, went 22.
Sweet.
And then danced professionally for about 9.5 years.
Okay. So age 20 is when you picked up dancing.
Correct.
Not 2020. Sorry.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So what year was that?
2000. I was a sophomore in college. 2008.
2008. Okay. And then a 9-year career
Correct.
of being pro.
Yes. So so I started as a sophomore, did it on and off through senior year, graduated, started teaching at the studio, turned pro shortly after.
Okay. Got it. And so I think it's a very unique sports background because it's a pretty small community, right?
Yes.
So what exactly is what you were doing?
Yeah. So the ballroom dancing competitive pro scene mimics CrossFit a lot, actually. So in the way that it's all self-funded.
Yep.
If you have sponsors, they sponsor things.
Yeah.
My outfits, my partner's dresses. I had a shoe sponsor at one point. So they definitely defrayed the cost of it. We danced professionally primarily to boost our teaching profiles.
Okay.
So we would compete. I think the height of my career, we competed 24 weekends a year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so, because there's competitions every weekend, everywhere, and we don't have an off season.
Yeah.
Like, there are competitions on New Year's Eve, and that's their draw.
Yeah.
So we kind of traveled around. So you basically compete to boost your teaching profile, because then if you're in a studio or you work for yourself, you can charge more, your rate goes up.
Yeah.
You have more notoriety.
Yeah.
Maybe you get flown out to do shows. Maybe you get flown out to do full days of coaching at another studio. That's where you can make the money.
Okay.
You didn't really make money to win. I think the first time I broke even at a competition was like, I think me and my partner cried.
You're like, yes.
Because we were like, we finally didn't lose money this competition.
Right.
The first time I made money probably wasn't till like 7-8 years in.
Wow. Yeah.
And we had won both divisions, and it was local in Nashville, so we drove there. I stayed at my partner's house. So my only expense was gas.
Okay.
But like, that's what it took.
Yeah.
Right. So,
right.
So yeah, the ballroom dance community, it's really, really small. I mean, if you've never watched a ballroom dancing competition before, it's not like Dancing with the Stars. We all dance at the same time.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, we all dance at the same time. You dance all 5 dances in a row, 90 seconds to a minute 45. Every dance. You get a small, maybe 15, 20 seconds to find a new spot, and they start the music again. And yeah, the most number of couples I've ever danced on the floor is probably 48.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's so nuts. Like, it's so interesting to think, like, how are judges, like, able to see 48 people?
They can't.
48 couples, which is what?
They can't. 96 people.
96 people? Yeah.
They
So it's
can't.
like, how do you, like, that becomes part of the strategy, right?
Correct.
Yeah, is
Correct.
like, where do I position myself? And
Correct.
like, have you ever had to like shove people out of the way?
Yes.
Sweet.
Yeah. I've been shoved. I've shoved people out of the way. I've set up before and someone set up right in front of me. I've done the same to them. I got to the point where I was very fortunate. We got to the point where we were good enough that people tended to avoid us.
Okay. Because they're like, we know these people. These people are known. We need to go find a different spot on the floor because the judges will just be cued in on them.
Correct. But I also used that to my advantage when I danced up. So if I knew that there was a national champion or a champion or a finalist in my heat, I would dance closer to them because I knew they were going to have to look for their number and they would see me on the side.
Okay.
So I would almost do it to kind of draft off of them to a certain degree because I knew if they were there, they were going to have to look this direction anyway.
Yeah.
They can't avoid me because I'm right in front of them.
Yeah.
So there is gamesmanship involved. I have been to dance professional camps where that was a seminar of
how to set up,
how to navigate the floor.
Yeah.
It's the dance world is wild.
Yeah.
And I think it taught me how to compete. It taught me how to build a team around me. It taught me how to never count myself out. It taught me how to control the controllables. All of things which translate in CrossFit and what we do now and what I do now.
Right.
And so those are definitely skills, especially someone who started later in life, dancing against people that had been dancing for 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
And making up an experience gap.
Yeah.
Like I kind of feel like I'm doing now.
Right. Right.
You know, it's just parallel to what I'm doing now. So this journey in CrossFit has been unique because I don't feel a ton of pressure, even though it's very easy to put pressure on yourself.
Right.
Because I did it for 9 years.
Right. Right.
Just in a sparkly outfit.
Yeah.
That's literally the only difference. But to a certain degree, it was kind of the same.
Right. Right. So, like, you coming up in that sport, I know we're talking a lot about classical ballroom dancing, but I think it's
there's a lot of parallels.
Yeah, and I think it's just a fascinating thing to like kind of dissect. Were people pissed that like, man, I've been doing this for 15 years and this dude comes in for two years and is already pro?
Yeah.
So like, did you get a lot of animosity and like poor treatment towards that at competition?
Never got poor treatment. I was very lucky that the style that I danced, which was American rhythm, was known as kind of the friendly style.
Okay.
And so it was actually fun. Like we were like, in general, the style was very nice. People were.
Okay.
And I think it's because a lot of people who start late in life dance that style.
Okay.
We're kind of all in a similar boat.
Yeah.
But yes, there were definitely times when I would be beating couples that have been in it for a while, couples that I watched on TV, and I was just beating a year or two in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, but the crazy thing about the sport is because there's so many competitions, I'm competing against the same people kind of every weekend.
Somewhat similar to CrossFit.
Yeah.
Like, especially higher level.
Right.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, like you are friends off of it because you're just kind of bonded by travel.
Yeah.
Like, and especially in the Midwest, there's so many competitions in the Midwest that we all danced, you know, we didn't want to pay to go anywhere else. So we just all competed at the same events all the time.
Okay.
You know, and my best friends in dance were the ones that I was competing against constantly. We were going back and forth. I didn't beat them consistently. But, you know, the only difference I think is that you celebrated each other to a degree, but but like our sport now, like the celebration also was, you're celebrating their success, you're congratulating them, but that's also $200 that you're making less.
Right.
Or you miss a final because of them and you don't get paid at all.
Yeah. Okay.
Like there have been definitely lots of times where the second most prestigious competition in the United States, me and our best friends, the final came down to one of us.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't me.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were going to get a paycheck and I didn't.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And they can now say they were finalists and I can't.
Yeah. Yeah. Damn.
Which sucks.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, Annalise and I got dinner a couple nights ago.
This is the people that you were competing.
I competed against my best friends in dance. We competed against them for 6 years before they retired before we did.
Yeah. Well, I think too, like, what you're describing sounds a lot like what CrossFit at the local level, not even local, but like even some of these
Yeah,
big competitions,
for
like
sure.
almost within state, like that was how it was in Minnesota, where
Right.
it was like everybody kind of knew everybody. We all competed against each other. But like I would go to everybody's gym and train with them
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
And like so it's like on the competition floor, like we're looking to beat each other, but
Yep.
like outside of that, we're like we'll go and train with each other, like
Yeah.
go have, lunch or whatever at the competition. Like it wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah.
So I think that parallels that. Now obviously we weren't like at that point in time competing for paychecks.
Right.
Like you did make some money, but you weren't living off of it.
Right.
So it's interesting that like you were still able to like see that, yeah, these are good people.
Right.
They're not just because they did better than me at a competition, like that's on me. Like
Right. Yeah.
I can control that.
Right.
I can't control the placement on the leaderboard, and which I think is a huge thing that you're actually really good at in CrossFit is just like, it is what it is. Let's
Yeah.
move on to the next event.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
You kind of have to especially because our sport is so subjective,
yeah,
it's so easy to look at the marks because you can ask for them. It's so easy to look at the marks and be like, oh my God, this judge, because they'll write the names down. So you know what judges didn't call you back or what judges marked you. Maybe like I've won multiple competitions where judges marked me 6.
really.
Yeah. I've won several of them where, 3 or 4 judges didn't agree. That's fine. They can agree for whatever reason. Maybe their own couples in the final. Maybe they just didn't like what we were wearing. Maybe they just saw me at the wrong time, or I maybe slipped and that just happens to me when they saw me.
Yeah.
But it's very easy to, like in this sport, to overanalyze everything because we have video that we can watch of what we did.
Right.
I have literally a sheet of paper that tells me basically what people thought of me.
Right.
And I can just look at that and, we've definitely been like, wow, this judge hates me.
Yeah.
And whenever they're on a judging panel, I automatically go, well, that's -1 for me.
Yeah.
And sometimes that judge will surprise you and mark you really well. But like, it's very easy to kind of go into every competition and be like, crap, they're on the panel.
Yeah.
And then you start spinning.
Yeah.
And then, well, what do they like? Well, who do they coach? Well, what do they do? And you try to play someone else's game. It's very easy to do that.
Yeah.
Just like in our sport.
Right.
It's easy to chase someone
Yeah.
that you shouldn't be chasing at that time.
Right.
But you think you have to.
Right.
So you F yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Because like I should never chase someone on a barbell. That just should never be when I chase them. I have tried.
Yeah.
It has not turned out great for me.
Yeah.
But, we've talked about, you're like, why are you chasing him here when there are 30 chest to bars where you can actually chase them?
Right.
And we've done the same thing of just like, oh, well, they do this. We should try it. And then you try something the day of and that clearly doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
So I think there's just a lot of the parallels. I thought about it on my way here. The parallels are uncanny between the dance world because it's literally you and your partner against everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think too, like, I think that just boils down to the essence of competition as well.
For sure.
Is like, whenever you compete, you're like, yes, you are competing for the spot on the leaderboard and competing against other people, and like, there are, it's unknowns. So you're like, I really would like to climb the leaderboard, but at the end of the day, like, you're not in control of what the judges judge.
Right.
You're not in control of what they're looking at when they're looking at it.
Yep.
You're not in control of the placements on the leaderboard. And so I think ultimately, like, competition comes down to very, like, you're competing against yourself, and while it might help your performance overall to, like, learn what competitors are good at what. So, like, if you do end up getting in a race with them in the sport, you're like, okay, I know that they're really good at this. I'm not going to make up ground on them here, but I know I can attack this portion of the workout and make up ground on them here, or leave them in the dust here. Type situation.
Exactly.
Or like, oh man, I just came off the wall at the same time as this individual and we're racing and I know that I'm better at X than them. Like, okay, let's lay the hammer down and demoralize them. More or less.
For sure.
So
for sure. It's so similar.
Yeah.
It's so similar.
Yeah. And like, it seems like there's a lot of mind games that you're playing in dance too with people, which I think needs to be played more in CrossFit. Everybody's so chummy in the back.
No, I mean, and the mind games are I think everyone is in the zone, and I think how you act in the on deck area,
Mhm.
like we do in the
Mhm. In the
corral.
staging area,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's very similar. Like
Yeah.
I was always with some partners, my first partnership, Nadine and I were both very outgoing.
Yeah.
And so we were like, and that's where we made our best friends. So like,
Mhm.
we were just chatting because that's what made us successful.
Right.
Whereas I was in a partnership when my partner wanted to be quiet to the side.
Okay.
She didn't like all that
She
other
just
stuff.
needed to focus.
Right. And so
Yeah.
we're all doing our own thing, but that in itself is a mind game. There
Mhm.
are some people that purposely warm up 100% in the on deck area to
Mhm.
kind of show off what they're doing.
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is make sure that people don't take your space.
Mhm.
I've jostled for people for a spot in line to get
Mhm.
towards the front
Mhm.
so I can establish my spot earlier.
Mhm.
I've also casually been in the back and just been like, y'all go first.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go where I don't need to fight for a spot. And that in itself is a game.
Right. Right.
Like, yeah, the defending national champions who turned out to be my coaches, the defending national champions, they don't need to walk out first.
Yeah.
They would wait for us and they'd be like, well, you're going to look at us anyway. So we're just going to find where it's convenient for us. So they were towards the end of my career. Yeah, I played that game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
people were like, well, he might stand next to me. I'm like, you're right, I might stand next to you.
Yeah.
And by now, because I've competed against you, I know what direction your routine goes. I could literally mirror you if I wanted.
Yeah.
And if you're going to go right, I know when you go right, I can go right too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like it got to the point where, but that's the fun of it. That's the fun of competition.
Right. Is all and that's I think something that people miss out a lot on is like the behind the scenes of all that stuff. And like when I watch sports now or even CrossFit, it's like, you try and as you analyze the sport, like I watch sports more for like to be able to analyze and like figure things out. And it's like those are like the small details of what you're trying to figure out and watch and analyze for is like, oh, okay, like, what did that person say to this person in the back? Or oh, look, they're doing their box jumps in this position purposely to show the other individual of like, or like this person turned this way specifically on this workout so that they didn't see the other individual moving because they needed this type of mindset going into X movement or whatever, And so those, I think, are the things that people don't fully understand unless they've competed at something in a high level. There's just so many micro details that go into the thing that is just lost on people. And like that's the fun of the competition.
That was the best part.
Yeah.
That was the best part. And it's also the part that it's at the end of the day, the part that we all remember.
Right. Right.
Like even talking to my friend like a weekend ago, like we talk about, remember when you elbowed me? Like that's what we remember.
Right. Right.
It's not, I don't even think we remember who won.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we remember the competitive moments.
Yes. Yeah.
Because that's kind of what brought us all together.
Yeah.
Was competing, especially because there wasn't like there was that much money involved.
Right.
So you remember the competition.
Right. Right.
You don't even remember the result anymore.
Right. Yeah. 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 That's super interesting. I think it's just it's unique to get different perspectives on sport, especially like, one that's not extremely popular and at least in the US. Is it worldwide or?
It is.
Is it more popular outside of the US?
For sure.
Shocking.
For sure. For sure. The dance industry is huge in the United States.
Is it? Okay.
It is because it's kind of ballroom dancing in particular is very like posh.
Okay.
So it is very popular.
Yeah.
You just don't. It's not that visible.
Oh, okay. Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
All it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, while you were competing, you kind of got. I think your professional career actually ties in a lot to.
Yes.
I think you do a great job of like you're like. I need to separate things, but at the same time, everything kind of like interlaps. If that makes sense.
They all do.
Yeah. And so you started in Orange Theory, and that was kind of like your first.
That was my first fitness job.
Yeah. Right.
And my first real training, really.
Right.
Was that
because it was a little bit more structured. Like there was things that were like you were going and doing aerobic work, basically.
Yep.
And eventually, like you were saying earlier, you got to the point where you're just like, I need to go do something for me.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you decide that it was CrossFit that you needed to go and do for you?
That would have been, so I moved here in 2015. That's kind of when the games were kind of at their
their
peak.
Yep.
So I had watched a lot of the content, and
Mhm.
so I kind of just thought, well, I honestly just thought I wanted to give it a shot.
Mhm.
And from a convenience perspective, I where 404 is, I taught at the dance studio down the street,
Mm.
and my teacher and my students, sorry, all wanted evening lessons, which makes sense.
Mhm.
So to avoid Buckhead traffic, I would just go take class at 404 or get there early to take class,
Yeah.
teach my client, and then go home. So
Okay.
it almost started off as a convenience because
Yeah.
and my Orange Theory wasn't that much further away. So it
Okay.
was kind of like, well, how do I keep my day in a very compact triangle
Yeah.
and then go home in one go?
Yeah.
So it started off as that, honestly.
Okay.
But I think I just wanted a physical challenge at that point.
Mhm.
I think at that point in time, 2019, yeah, I only danced for 2 more years afterwards, including COVID. So there was a period of time where we didn't dance.
Mhm.
I just wanted a physical challenge because dancing wasn't the biggest part of my life anymore.
Mhm.
And so and that in itself is a physical challenge. So
Yeah.
I kind of just wanted a different one.
Yeah.
And CrossFit just seemed perfect for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was also just very different from what I was doing.
Mhm.
And I'm clearly someone who likes extremes.
Yeah.
So
Aren't we all?
yeah. So it was just it kind of was a natural place for me to go. And I took the class and I enjoyed it. And
Yeah.
I was like, well, this is fun. It's a new group of people.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The 404 community is great. So I got to meet some cool people too.
Totally. Yeah. And I think, when we first started up, you were talking about like you need structure, and
Yeah.
you were like, classes are good, classes are fun, but like I know that I kind of want to take this to another level.
Yeah.
And I know that I was coached my whole life with dance.
Yeah.
And I know that I need a coach if I want to take this to the next level.
Yeah.
And so you started up with me in 2021.
Yep.
And
right before Big Orange Brawl, which is my first indie comp.
Yeah, and so in October, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you were man, you were what, 135?
At that point I was probably like 150.
Okay, so you're 150 pounds.
150 pounds.
And you're 185 now?
Got a 185.
So 35-pound gain. And
Yeah.
this is how long it takes, guys.
Yeah, it takes a long
time. And then I think your max snatch was like 135.
Yeah.
And now you just snatched 200 in August.
205.
205.
Yep.
Was that one more recent? Or
That was at camp.
That was at camp. 205 was at camp. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So what is that? 70 pounds on your snatch.
Yep.
What was your clean? It was like, is that 185, 205, something around
when we first started?
Yeah.
Probably 200.
200. And so we put on about 50 pounds on your clean.
Yep.
So obviously you're making some strength gains here.
Yeah.
You're putting on size, like you're progressing. But it's been kind of like a very tumultuous road.
Yes.
You changed jobs.
Yep.
Like you got out of Orange Theory, which was a 9-year career. Your jobs inside of Orange Theory changed.
Yep.
And now you are ticket sales.
Yeah. I'm the director of ticketing for the Atlanta Vibe,
Yep.
which is the women's professional volleyball team in Atlanta.
Yeah. So maybe take us through kind of like, how have all those things like affected your training, and like what all have we done to kind of like manage some of the chaos?
I think the common thread is stress.
I
think when we first started, God, what was I? I forgot what position I was in the company, but I was already a manager of some sort.
I think you were just a manager of a studio at that time.
Yes. So, but in that time, I became within
like a 6-month period, I think.
I was traveling.
Yep.
Quite a bit.
Yep.
I was a regional fitness manager, a regional manager, and then kind of stuff hit the fan, and I went back to a studio. But the common thread was just stress and stress management. So I think when I was on the road, I was lucky that I found a gym that I could train at that let me do open gym kind of whenever. So I was able to kind of do some stuff there. But that stuff, I think I remember we just did very minimal things. It was very much like, this is an ideal world of what you could do, but if you even get some of it done, that's a good week.
Yeah.
And then there was a period of time where I was working nonstop.
Yeah.
And it was just, let's just do a couple days structured, and if you can take class somewhere, great.
Yep.
CrossFit or Orange Theory, just do something.
Yeah.
Then I think towards the end of it, when I was back in studio, the stress level was a little bit lower, and I think we were able to figure out a relatively consistent training schedule for me, 5 days a week.
Because that was over this last
2 years,
2
probably year and a
years?
half, 2 years.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there was a period of time where there was a little bit more of a
Yeah.
consistent schedule
Yeah,
going
and
on.
I would end up I think I split my sessions for a little bit of time, so it kinda worked out okay, and then when I started this new job, um, I started shortly before season started,
Mhm,
and so and I didn't know what I was doing. I'd never worked in sports before, so I think we were able to stay relatively consistent until matches started, and
mhm,
that's kind of when shit hit the fan.
mhm,
And so that one was just kind of just management at that point. I think
mhm,
we didn't make any structural changes. It was more just like the volume in general was less because I could
mhm,
get in and out quicker.
mhm,
Then we had off season, which I never had before,
mhm.
and we were able to do anything we wanted.
Yeah,
It was like 5 days, 3 hour sessions. It was
yep,
great.
yeah,
Didn't have to split. I could stop and go eat and come back. Like it was
mhm,
just like I had the luxury of time that I think I've never had before.
yeah.
So we took advantage of it as we should have.
205-pound snatch.
Yeah, 2 out of 5 for 5 match. And then now I'm in my second season. I got a promotion. I'm in charge of
Mhm,
more.
mhm,
And yeah, so we've reduced our training days from 5 to 4
mhm,
to give me a little bit of flexibility. I
mhm.
think I felt a lot of guilt when I missed stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
And so this allows me to move a piece to a different day or move the entire day to a different day.
mhm.
Our mat schedule luckily is every other day when we do play. So I know what 2 days I can't work out
Right,
and we kind of can work around it.
yep,
And then the other main goal for us is just on the Saturdays that you don't have a match and you're training here, the goal is just to enjoy it
mhm,
and to have fun
yeah,
and to like do your best fitness that you can
yep,
and just also give yourself a little bit of grace. I think that's just what I've learned over
mhm,
season is like the stress level is really high. We don't need to make it higher.
mhm,
And at the end of the day, like for me, CrossFit is fun
yeah, right,
and it's a competitive outlet that I enjoy.
yeah,
It's I'm lucky that I don't rely on it as a career.
right, right,
So it's right now we're just trying to enjoy it.
mhm,
And this becomes more stress management for me.
mhm,
And I look forward to Saturdays. I look
right,
forward to when I get to come here and I get to train. Usually Wednesdays, like a full evening
yeah,
where I
yeah,
don't feel like I don't feel rushed. I feel like
yeah,
I'm breaking stuff up. So like I look forward to those days
yeah,
and then I just manage the other ones.
right, right,
And
yeah,
I move some stuff around here and there when
yep,
I can.
yeah, and I think when I kinda wanna get into, like, feeling guilty,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think just kind of, like, looking at a big picture is, like, I think there was always some level of anxiety about getting stuff in throughout the course of,
Yeah.
up until after the Vibe season.
Yeah.
That first season, so, like, the first kinda 3 years we were working together, there was always kind of that guilt in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
And now that you're working with the Vibe, you kinda saw, like, "Oh, this is what time off looks like," and,
Yeah.
like, you saw, like, "Wow, I can really make a ton of gains, like,
Yeah,
during this
for
time
sure.
period," you know?
Because it was like 5 months.
Yeah, right, right. So, it was like, we had 5 real like, your 5 best months of training,
Yeah.
right, happened during that time frame. So now that you've, like, seen that and you have the ability to do that in your schedule, it's when as we're heading into this season, we're just making sure that it stays fun for you.
Yeah.
And so, um, and like you're able to work out. And so, like, one thing that we're doing every single day or every single week is leaving a long conditioning piece in
Yep.
for you because it's kind of like a little bit of like a mental reset throughout
Yep.
the week.
Yep.
We're still like your biggest weakness in the sport is lifting, so we're
Yep.
still crushing on lifts, and then we have the Saturday session built in there.
Yeah.
So it's like, and contrary to popular belief, 4 days a week still gets you fit.
Yeah. I mean, I PR'd my push jerk last week.
Yeah, right, right. And I think, this is actually something that I've been doing with quite a few of my clients now is taking them down to 4 days a week.
Yeah.
And we can I think this next question will kind of like get into that. But at what point in time were you like, man, I really need to talk to him about this because I'm feeling guilty not getting all this in.
Yeah.
And like how did you address that guilt like feeling, if that makes sense?
Yeah. I think for this particular season that I'm in now, we started our first match was last Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
I think you and I started conversations, I think back in October,
Yeah. Yeah.
about just like
How was it? So like
looking for it.
yeah, so like sorry, I didn't mean
No,
to
you're
interrupt,
good.
but like how was it when did it start to click that you needed to have like conversations with me when you were at Orange Theory? And like does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. I think when I I think when I was consistently missing stuff
Mm-hmm.
because I had to stay late, I had to, like, this was still like post COVID or whatever period we were
Right.
talking about. So people were still calling out. We were madly understaffed.
Yeah.
So I think because of all the schedule changes, I think I was the type of person that, like, I have my day planned. I'm the type of person that has my day planned out, like, to the minute,
Mm-hmm.
down to, like, I will eat at this time. I will stay at home until this time. I will leave by this time so I can work out for X amount of time. And when that changes, I get really frazzled.
Yeah.
Because usually I look forward to training. So
Right.
the thing that I was looking forward to the most in my day
Was getting
was getting removed.
right.
And so, but on top of that, I think it was just like, wow, I've missed a lot of training.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, I want to improve in the sport. That's why I do it. That's
Mm-hmm.
why I have a coach.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel like you're sacrificing gains and you're sacrificing improvement,
Mm-hmm.
which is just kind of like just sad in
Mhm.
something that you enjoy
Mm-hmm.
a lot. I think I just felt guilty and also just sad
Yeah.
because I felt like I was missing out. And, I love coming here and working out with everybody and I missed that interaction time with them too.
Mm-hmm.
So there was just a lot of just guilt and sadness around missing stuff.
Yeah.
And I think we had to figure out a way for me to not feel like I was missing out
Yeah.
and that I was still making progress,
Mm-hmm.
even though I wasn't necessarily like hitting every day
Yeah.
to its fullest.
Yeah.
And
right.
so I think with that knowledge in mind, I think we're treating this season very differently than we have in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Not just the 4 days, but also if I only have half an hour, what's my priority?
Yeah.
If I have an hour, where do I go from here? Like, we text back and forth every time when I'm just like, hey, gotta stay late. Probably will only have an hour.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really tired. What do I take out?
Yeah.
And then coming in, doing what we agreed upon, and then feeling very successful.
Right. Right.
And, I can go to bed at night going, well, you know what? We still got training in.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
it's going to make me better.
Yeah.
And I just feel better about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was kind of like an evolution for us, right?
For sure.
Like, we started, you're like, I have X amount of time to train. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's load it up.
Yeah.
We loaded it up. And it was like, okay, now John's missing a bunch of stuff throughout the course of the week. Like,
Yeah.
hey, what's going on? And we kind of like that kind of started to open up the conversation a little bit. And one thing that is great about you is you're very open and honest about what's going on with things.
Yeah.
Because that helps me a lot too.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people who are like, oh, I don't know. Like, I can make it up. Like,
Yeah.
They look at it like, oh, I can make this work up. No such thing as makeup work.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Or it's like, no, I can fit it in my schedule. I just got to do better about X. And like in reality, like you were very good about, I don't think I'm going to be able to fit this in. Like this is like, it's chaos right now. We're understaffed, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And like, I think it was a little bit of an event session for you, like some of those times, but it helps me understand kind of what's going on in your life. And so I think the first thing we started doing was we took this total session volume down.
Yep.
And then we started talking about, I think we're still going 5 days a week, but then we started talking about, okay, you always need to hit your strength work in the day. And if you get to the conditioning, just get as much in as you can.
Yep.
Because coming off the dance world, like you were pretty aerobic and we obviously needed to hit the strength stuff.
Yep.
And so that was kind of like what we ran with over the course of
a couple years.
I think about a year and a half worth of time while you were in Orange Theory.
Yep.
Was like, hey, do your strength stuff. That needs to be, you need to get that in no matter what.
Yep.
And then you can kind of go do the fun conditioning stuff afterwards. And that worked well. I think, I think you hit that 185 thruster. Your goal was always to qualify when they started doing quarterfinals.
Yep.
When you started competing.
Yes.
And your goal was always make it to quarterfinals.
Yeah.
And the year that you made it was the 25% year, but
I was 8.
You were top 8% that year. So I think, you checked off your goal in regards to like you wanted to be inside the top 10 essentially percent of quarterfinal athletes. And I think that's just testament to you being like, hey, these are the things that I need, because I think if you had not done that, you probably would have come to the conclusion that this isn't for me. I can't do this. Like it's too time intensive. I'm just going to go back to classes. Yeah. When in reality, like when we started talking about it, we started figuring out a way to work around that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. 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 And I think we also just figured out kind of just the structure.
Yeah.
I feel like it's very like when I was most successful in dance, I had a coach that told me this is how you should practice.
Mm-hmm.
And once we had a template
Mm-hmm.
for it, we became way more efficient, first of all.
Yeah.
We weren't just practicing 2 hours a day for the sake of practicing 2 hours a day.
Right.
Knowing we had to teach 10 hours right after that.
Right.
So it wasn't like, it was like, okay, if we can get this practice done in an hour, or, you know, there's always days where I check in with you and I'm like, hey, I'm not feeling good. But being specific, I think what I've learned a lot working with you is just like, just be specific.
Yeah.
Like, okay, what does not feel good mean? Did you not sleep well? Are you
Right.
super stressed? Are you just feeling like crap today and just are in a funk? Like being open and honest about like, hey, that affects your training and I just need to know so we can adjust
Right.
so that you leave here feeling good about what you did,
Right.
or feeling at least that like you gotta like the burden's off your shoulders
Right.
for an hour,
Right.
you know. And I think just learning to just I've always been someone that enjoyed the process. Like I think even dance, because I started so late,
Yeah.
I learned to love practice.
Yeah.
Because it was like, oh, this is time I get to do this, and this is time that, you know, that I'm, you know. And obviously I was motivated because I was like, I have to make up 16 years of dance experience with
Right.
competitors
Right.
who I'm fighting for money for.
Right.
So like I kind of just learned to enjoy the process. But
Yeah.
I think even though I don't take this as seriously, like I think the process needs to be fun and enjoyable.
Right.
Because if it's not, then there's really no point in you doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think we
Unless
figured out how to balance it.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless like your sole goal is like competition.
Right.
If your sole goal is competition, which that was kind of like my boat.
Yeah.
Training didn't need to be fun.
Right.
It just needed to be whatever I need to do.
It probably shouldn't have been.
Yeah, right.
For
It's
a
like
period of time.
right. It's like whatever I need to do to be good out on the competition floor.
Right.
I will do that in the gym because ultimately that's my goal.
Right.
And like you have so much more going on in life, and like, you know, my life at the time was very conducive to being able to only focus on competing.
Right.
But you got so much more going on in your life that
Right.
doesn't make sense that your goal should be competition. Like
Right.
your goal should be having fun because you're not making a living off of this. This is
Right.
what is your therapist
My
call it?
therapist calls it a part-time job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because of the amount of time I spend with it. But
Right.
I mean, just in thinking about that, like the times when I was in that zone that you were competitively was the days where I practiced from 9:30 to 11:30, had a 30-minute lunch break, and then taught from 12 to 10.
Yeah.
5 days a week.
Right.
Right. Like
sounds a lot like a competitive CrossFitter's coaching and training schedule.
Right. Like when you live, breathe, sleep it, and then wash, rinse, repeat 7 days a week.
For years.
Yeah. It's just it is I think I was lucky that I found joy in it. I know a lot of people that didn't.
Yeah.
My first partner, the reason she decided to stop is because she stopped enjoying it.
Yeah.
She was also raised in a ballroom family, so she was raised in the industry.
Yeah.
So, and that's a whole different layer that I don't have experience with. But she stopped, you know, we talk about it all the time after. We're still very good friends. She's like, yeah, I stopped enjoying it. And I knew you did.
Yeah.
You enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So why should I keep going? But not everyone has the same journey.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But I'm like, I think the biggest thing I think that we always talk about is like, are you still enjoying this?
Yeah.
Because if you're not, we need to change something.
Right.
And if you're still enjoying it, you're still down with what we're doing, then we'll just keep going. But if we need to make adjustments, and I think last year, I think we discovered between January and probably April, May.
Yeah.
When I like dropped a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And was just never kind of fully together.
Right.
It was like, oh, this isn't enjoyable right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you are stressed.
Yeah.
And your stress levels are now even higher, and fitness is actually making you more stressed.
Right.
So I think we learned from that.
Yeah.
And we're like, if I didn't go through that, we wouldn't be where we are today, where I feel good.
And like, I think the big thing about that too was like, again, you were open, you were honest about it. You know, like, look, everybody's going to go through a time period where they get burnt out with something. Yeah. Right. But, you know, you were able to recognize that honestly pretty early on.
Yes.
I think it was, we had Fittest of the Coast, and then we had the camp right after that.
And then the open the week after.
And then the open the week after. and you were also in season at that point in time.
And it was a new industry.
Yeah.
So
So you were just like,
flying by
you
the
were
seat of my
burning
pants.
the candle on both
Yeah.
ends. And so, everybody's going to have that happen to them at some point in training and at some point in life and at some point in whatever endeavor that they
Right.
choose to go on, right? I think the big thing is like figuring out a way to persevere through that, which you did. And you had a conversation with me about and you were open and honest about like, hey, this fucking sucks right now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not performing. I'm not hitting any of my numbers that I'm supposed to be hitting in training. Like, I literally don't want to come to the gym, stuff,
Yeah.
And so we adjusted that. I can't remember exactly what we did for that, but we had adjusted.
I think you made me take a week off.
Yeah.
And you were like, don't come in.
Yeah.
Don't touch anything.
Yeah.
Don't even take class.
Yep.
Just like chill.
Yeah.
For 7 days.
And that was like when it was like, that was the initial, right?
Yes.
Was the initial thing was like, just leave the gym for 7 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think when we came back, it was just another conversation about, do we need to realign goals a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Where are we at?
Mm-hmm.
Do you even feel like you want to keep doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Or like how it was just like, I think a lot of it was like, what are 1 or 2 things we can do a couple times a week that you really enjoy, that you can still make progress in?
Yeah.
Which for me was gymnastics. So like, I think we had a designated like gymnastics day where I didn't have to worry about a barbell.
Yeah.
I wasn't stressed about hitting numbers. It was just like, we're going to skill work day. You're going to enjoy this.
Yeah.
The conditioning piece was skill work based.
Yeah.
And it was just like, and I think I just started like having fun.
Yeah.
On that day. And that in itself made the other 2 days like, okay, cool. Like we have something to look forward to. We build off of that. And I think that we were still 5 days a week. It's not like we brought the volume. The volume went down a little bit, but I think it was more just like having a day of just like, we know you enjoy this. We know this is really fun for you. And you're going to feel successful doing whatever it is because you like all these things.
Right. Yep.
And that's what it was.
Right.
But that's also the period of time when I think my handstand walk max went up.
Yes. Yeah, probably.
Like I went from like 10 feet unbroken to I think at one point I think we hit 75.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So like, but like that happened during that time.
Yeah. Right.
On like a Wednesday.
Okay.
Because that was the day we decided was the day that
everything was
fun day had to be.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, we had discussed keeping 5 days in because of the Open.
Yeah.
And with some of the season changes that happened this year, we sat down, we were like, you were like, I don't really want to do the Open. And I was like, awesome.
Yeah.
Because it is like during your stressful time of the year, right?
And it also doesn't help me.
Right.
As a masters athlete, they take the top 200.
Yeah.
I mean,
minimum 200, I think it's 1%.
Yeah. But I've gotten better.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten 2,500 spots better in a year.
Right.
So like, I think it was just being realistic.
Yeah, for sure.
And just setting our calendar of, okay, I think we'll compete probably in June.
Yep.
And we're cool with that.
Yeah. And like, let's just ride out this stressful volleyball season.
Yeah.
And after the season, like, you'll have probably a 3-month period where 3-month period where you can really start to ramp training up.
Yep.
And we'll go into a June competition ready to rock. We'll build a base now and we'll go into that June competition ready to rock.
Right. And then the stress of training went away.
Yeah. Yep.
Because it's like, okay, well, I'm not competing next week.
Right.
We decided, I think old me would not have dropped out of the fittest of the coast qualifier.
Yeah, because that was another thing you did. And like,
old me would not have done that.
Yeah.
I think old me would have just been like, fuck it, I'm just going to keep doing it.
Right.
And then I would have been miserable.
Yeah. Yeah, because last year you flew in night of the competition,
to
right?
Do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I flew in at midnight.
Yeah. Yep.
And then ran my 4K at 7 a.m.
2020 hindsight, probably.
Yeah, that wasn't smart, but we did it anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, qualified, so I was like, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, and that's one of the tough things about like coaching is like, I should probably tell him not to do this.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he qualified and he's spending his money to do it.
Yeah.
So like, it's his decision.
Well, and to be fair, the event that I had to work was supposed to be the week before.
Yeah. And you were supposed to get out of there early, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
Correct.
So, yeah. So I think it was just like culmination of things like.
I mean, it was a perfect storm of crap,
right.
But I mean, in an ideal world, everything happened the way beach roll happened.
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't compete the same number of days. It was one day less. But
Yeah.
workout wise, it was similar.
Right.
4 to 6 workouts a day.
Right. Right.
And that happened. But I also think that was like the culmination of like going through what I went through in the very beginning of the year, figuring out how to persevere through it in the middle of the year, and then I think that was my best executed competition I think I've ever done.
Oh, for sure.
Certainly individually.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I think that entire time, like, I just felt good about what I was doing. We were in a division that I probably shouldn't have been in.
Yeah. But it was,
and I wasn't last.
Yeah.
So it was great.
Yeah. But it was one of those things like, okay, you had a good 5 months of training leading up to that. And we're like, hey, like, let's challenge you a little bit here. Let's go up a division. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
You're able to do everything inside of this. Like, there's not anything that's going to bottleneck you at this point in time. But like weight wise, skill wise, you can do everything.
Yeah.
So it's your job, like, to go up to that next ability level.
Yeah.
And let's see what happens. And you did it, and you did well there.
Yeah.
You executed very well, and like it's kind of a testament to like, hey, you had 5 really, really good months of training.
Yeah. So now we know what it does.
Right. And I think
and I had my nutrition dialed in.
Yeah. I think like sometimes you just kind of have to go through it until you can see like a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And like I think you have that light that you can kind of just almost fall back on now, is like, which makes it a little bit more okay for you to be able to say something like, let's go down to 4 days a week. Let's make one of my days super aerobic and just easy. And I'm going to do 2 moderate to hard days. Like another day is going to be training on Saturday with everybody.
Yeah.
And then the other 2 are going to be like moderate to like easy.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to do them when I can.
Yeah.
And I think that safety blanket of being like, at the end of this season, I'm going to have 5 months to train really hard.
Right.
Is super beneficial for you.
Right.
So.
Right. And as a planner, that's good for me to know too. Of like, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Right.
I had a coach in dance that drew out this like curve for us every year. And it was like, all right, cool. This is the beginning of your season and you're at the bottom. And so everything should be feeling like crap.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably learning new skills, new choreography, new whatever. You're probably tweaking everything.
Yeah.
It's all about the work.
Yeah.
This part of your season, we're peaking here. This is nationals.
Yep.
And this is where you focus on the fun stuff, the artistry, the performance, the whatever. Yeah. And this should be your best dancing.
Right.
So I went into every year with a bell curve.
Yeah.
And I think I just wasn't because I was new to this sport.
Right.
I hadn't applied the bell curve here yet.
Yeah.
And I think now we're in a place where we're kind of applying it.
Right.
I know where training is going to be the ramp up the most. And I know where everything's going to be a little bit lower. And I just need to kind of get through it.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yep. Yeah. So, real quick, tell us about the vibe.
Yeah.
Because I have a personal mission to blow this thing up because it's cool.
So the Atlanta Vibe is we're Atlanta's first professional women's volleyball team. We play at Gas South Arena up in Duluth, which is in if you don't know, it's in like kind of the northern suburbs of Atlanta. We're just a brand new women's volleyball team and part of a brand new league that started last year. So we're in season
Professional.
Yeah, we're in season 2. The goal of this league was to bring our homegrown athletes home to play, because previously in order to continue, and for the men it still is like this.
Okay.
If you want to continue playing volleyball, you have to go overseas.
Okay.
There's just no option.
Yeah.
So now there are professional contracts in the United States. Our athletes are getting paid good salaries, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Especially starting out.
Yeah.
We cover our athletes' housing.
Nice.
As well.
Damn.
And so so it's just good professional opportunities, and for the sport that I love and I'm just absolutely nerd out for.
Yeah.
It makes me so happy to see our athletes play at home on US soil. We always have family members in the stands because they can come.
Yeah.
They don't have to fly to Finland.
Yeah.
They don't have to go to Italy.
Right.
They can, like, one of our athletes, her family is from Alabama. And she is like, great, it's 2 hours. We can drive here.
Yeah.
Come watch me, and we can drive home the same night if we want to. So they're there all the time.
Yeah.
So awesome. It's great just to see. But yeah, that's who I work for right now. And, yes, I work in ticket sales and it's really, really stressful. But like, when you see a crowd of people cheering your athletes on, you're like, wow, that was a good day.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was worth it.
That's sweet.
Yeah, it was the best thing ever. It's a great opportunity, and I love our team.
Yeah.
our athletes are fantastic. They're all good people.
Yeah.
And there are people that a lot of them had retired
Yeah.
because they didn't want to go overseas.
Right.
And now
they're given an opportunity
they
to
were
play
given
here.
a breath of fresh air and they were like, oh, now new life. I can keep playing.
Yeah.
And so for a lot of them, it's for some of them, it's a redemption tour
Yeah.
because they're like, I didn't play. Some of them got other jobs. And last year was their first year where they put the uniform back on again.
That's
and like
sweet.
that in itself was just super cool to see.
Right.
Yeah.
How do like American athletes stack up to like world athletes? Are in volleyball specifically?
Good. We're good. I mean, the U.S. always has a good national team, men
Okay.
and women. We are. I think you go through there isn't necessarily like most countries don't have like a university like an NCAA
Okay.
system like we do.
Yeah.
So a lot of foreign players come play here.
Yeah.
And get a degree at the same time.
Yeah.
And so that's something that makes us a little bit different.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, our athletes stack up against everybody. I mean, we've won a gold medal before.
Yeah. Okay.
Men and women.
Sweet.
And yeah, the athletes are all really, really solid. And yeah, like in all sports, there just needs to be more money.
Yeah.
Because yes, if you're a top player in the US, you will probably get a very good contract overseas.
Okay.
That might, and some athletes that graduated this year wanted to go overseas.
Mm-hmm.
Go make your money.
Right.
So I think the quality of athletes is very, very good. The level of play has been great.
Awesome.
To see all around.
Yeah. Sweet. Okay. Some Mia questions here.
Okay.
Because she definitely would like to know more about you.
Okay.
I'm sure.
God. Okay.
Okay.
Questions.
Actually, she didn't send me any of these. I'm just asking these because she wants them. So.
Okay.
All right. Favorite movement in CrossFit?
Ring muscle ups.
Okay. Favorite competition to compete at?
Oh wow. I'm gonna say beach roll.
Okay.
I'm gonna say beach roll.
Okay. Interesting. I was gonna say Fitness to the Coast.
Oh really?
So
I'm gonna
that's
say
interesting.
beach roll.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That was a fun.
I think the schedule is better.
Okay. Yeah. That was just a fun competition this year
fun.
too. Like
best time.
Yeah.
And we had a big crowd.
Yeah. Right. That was one of the. Yeah. That was a ton.
Although
of fun.
competing with Kara Brooks is a joy. We're gonna say that's my favorite competition.
Okay.
When I get to compete with Kara, shout out Kara.
Shout out. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's the best time.
Okay. Favorite trash TV to watch?
Oh, I watch so much of it. Does Survivor count as trash TV?
Well, who are you asking? If you're asking me, I think all TV's trash.
Okay.
So yes.
Okay. So probably Survivor.
Okay.
Or like.
What about like I guess Survivor's drama. What about like a TLC or TCL, whatever that channel is?
I mean, I've watched Extreme Couponers before, if that counts.
That counts.
Those people are wild.
Okay.
I've never felt more great about myself. Watching that show.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Okay. And last question. Apologies if this one catches you off guard a little bit, but like, what does blacklisted mean to you?
I think no, it doesn't catch you off guard actually. Blacklisted. It's my community.
Mm-hmm.
It's the people that I enjoy being around.
Mm-hmm.
It is, like I said earlier about building a team.
Mm-hmm.
This entire group is my team.
Yeah.
Not just you, the people who treat me and my body.
Yeah.
Not just the nutrition coaches that are kind of, you all work in tandem together.
Right.
Not just that. I think that's what I was missing in dance.
Okay.
Was I didn't have a community of people.
Yeah.
As a part of my team. I mean, you had people that would support you, but it's just very different. Like our group of people.
When we go to competitions, like we go to competitions to watch everybody and support everybody.
Yeah.
Whereas like a lot of the times when you go to competitions, like I'm going to a competition just to like go to this competition and like some of my crew will be there competing, but we're not like going to like genuinely support them, if that makes sense.
But also even training, like a lot of us overlap in division.
Yeah.
And not as much, I think a lot of people think we would, but but a lot of us overlap in divisions.
Yeah.
And so, technically we compete against each other. But I also think when we work out together, there is a genuine degree of support that I don't think I've really ever felt in a competitive environment because it's not fake.
Yeah.
It's not just to your face. It's like, no, like I'm genuinely happy that you succeeded in that.
Right.
And that's, especially coming from the dance world where you don't know what's true and what's not to what people are saying to you.
Right.
like that's just a feeling that it's very rare. Like I think I told you recently, like our beach brawl, like there were 10 of us in an Airbnb. Our group chat's still going.
Yeah.
And we celebrate each other, we vent, we joke about what workout we're all doing separately. We're joking about how we did in a workout. We're all joking about how we would do in the Fittest of the Coast workouts that have been released. Like it's all genuine. And when someone hits a PR, we are actually fired up. I'm not just telling you I am. I'm like really excited for you. And I think that's very different.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you see it all the time. Like people like have their like 3 people in their camera celebrating a PR. But like if you go watch, James's PR that we just posted or Amanda's PR, we left the sound in there.
Yeah.
Because the whole gym
was loud.
Stopped and watched those 2 at that point in time.
Yeah.
And everybody there was pumped for them, cheering for them. It was like 20 plus people that were stoked that they hit PRs.
Right.
And it's not, like we're going to stop to watch other people's success and see them succeed.
Right.
And I think that's a little bit different than, what you might normally get out of a training atmosphere.
Right. Well, and I feel like when we all compete too, we're all competing for Blacklisted. Like we're all competing for something that's a little bit bigger. It's not just about me and how I'm doing that day. It's more just like, no, I'm competing to represent the group of people that's also here.
Yeah.
Even though some of them are on the floor with me.
Yeah.
But like we're all like, it makes competition less stressful on the brain because you're like, wow, like we're here together doing this together. And we're not just here to compete. Like we're competing for the team.
Yeah.
And I mean, use RX Beach Brawl. We had like what, 5 women in the top 11?
Yeah, in RX. Yeah,
but no one hated each other for it.
Right,
no one was angry. We were all really excited.
Bree won, and everyone was like, "Fuck, that's sweet."
Right, but then we all celebrated someone getting 4th. Like it was like it didn't matter.
Right,
you know, and that.
To give you an example, like Bree comes up from Florida, and she stays at the person who got 4th place's house when she comes up.
Exactly. And it's not like we're not friends. I mean, yes, we're all competitors and we all hate losing.
Yeah.
That's why we're here.
Right.
So that makes us unique too. Is like none of us like to lose.
Yeah.
So we're all very competitive.
Right.
But we also, I think, see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And it's hard in a training environment like this. It's hard to find people who all kind of are on that page together of like, this is the bigger, if we all zoom out, this is the bigger picture. This is why we're here. This is what brings us together. We're still going to throw down and I will be pissed if people beat me in certain workouts.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like,
that the fact that they beat you is going to make you better.
Right. And we all know that. And there's mutual understanding. And I think that's just I don't want to say like it is a positive training environment, but I also think it's a very healthy training environment.
Yeah.
And the people that are competing for a living feel just as supported as the people who are here just because we just want to have a good time.
Yep.
And that's very rare.
Yeah. Yeah. Very rare. It's usually one or the other.
Right. But I support the people who are trying to get to the games.
Yep.
But they support me going to the local throwdown.
Right.
And none of us feel left out and no one feels like it's all about them.
Yeah.
But like we're all just like, no, we're all here together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just the culture that's been cultivated here is just very, very, very conducive to, I think, why we all do this.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's all of our whys are supported.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I dig it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, how do people find you if they want to chat more about you or find you on Instagram?
Can find me on Instagram. I'm at
Follow Your Journey.
Yeah, John K. Chen. I post fitness and dance stuff.
Sweet.
So if you ever want to see me dance, it's on there. Just find it.
Yeah.
My dance stuff's on YouTube. So yeah, you can come, chat with me about whatever.
Sweet.
You can tell I'm an open book.
Yes. Very true. Well, thanks for listening, guys. If you're still listening, please like and subscribe. Give us a follow on Instagram if you're catching this somewhere else. And check out some of our other content on YouTube. We're putting out some more educational stuff again. So if you guys have questions, let us know. But we'll catch you guys next time.
Smash that like button. I know how YouTube works. I know how it works. That was good.